a lot of times we are just doing the things right now that are in front of us and we don't ever realize. And here's the thing, like all it takes is looking so closely at what's in front of us. And we do that for so long that we get so off track where we were meant to be. And then we resent the very thing that we're working on. And we get resentful and we think like, I hate this. I don't enjoy it anymore. It's not fun for me anymore. And if you don't build in breaks, you will never be able to get back on the tracks and start doing the things that you were designed to do. Those are the places where the blessing and the favor is. It's not the things that you decided to create. So if you feel empty about it, ask yourself, how did I get here? When did I start denying things that I felt like benefited me long-term for a short-term gain or short-term approval? Gosh, I'm so guilty of doing this. Well, hello, friends. Welcome back. You're listening to a mini episode today. I am so excited that you're tuning in. We're going to talk about something that everybody is affected by, and it's transitions. And I'm recording this, and it's the second day of April, and it feels like spring. There's pollen everywhere, all over my car. It's tracking into the house, and there's green grass everywhere. And I did an Instagram live last night, and I was talking about the dead spots in my grass and how I never knew there were dead things. Like I never knew that the dead grass was there when everything was dormant. But now that there's new growth, it exposed the dead stuff. And so I think springtime and transitions are such an incredible opportunity to evaluate where you're headed and really what it is that's maybe been dead in your life. Maybe it's a routine. Maybe it's a responsibility, something that you chose at one point, but it's not something that you feel that you're called to take into the next season. But if we never take a moment to pause, if we never evaluate, right? If we don't have transition time allocated to evaluate where we've been, what we've experienced, and where we're headed, then we're always going to be repeating the exact same things. And the thing is, like, our bodies are meant to change and we never relive the same experience. We change and evolve, and what is behind us we'll never be able to recreate again in the future. Maybe some things look a little bit similar, but it's different. You have a different body that you're living in, and things and experiences that are the same. Maybe they feel familiar, but it's a different experience because of the nature of the way we evolve and change. So today we're actually going to talk about those transition times. And I got to be honest, I mean, I'm 38 years old, so I'm not going to pretend like I know everything about transitions in life. There's many of you that are probably listening that have way more seasoning and experience and have lived a lot more life than I am. And you could probably speak with a lot more wisdom to some of these things. But what I'm going to share with you today are some of the things that I've learned very recently about transitions, going through a lot of personal transitions and different parts of my life that some of them were forced. Some of them are transitions that I didn't want to have to embrace, but I didn't have a choice and I had to step into it. And so I'm going to share a little bit of kind of my personal flavor of like what I've learned and experienced, but also some of the things that kind of are more from a physical standpoint, because I know many of you are looking for tools to support your body because you want to feel your best. And the goal is for me to give you some things to walk away with. So some things to think about, and then some things that you can start implementing and maybe even just start putting into practice today. So here's where I want to start our conversation. Transitions are inevitable. You're either in a transition right now, you're maybe headed into one, or maybe you're exiting one. But the truth is that transitions are a part of life, and it's how we frame them that makes the difference in what the transitions produce in our future. And what I want for you to be able to produce is more fruit from your life. And I know that that's what you want too if you're listening. So we're going to try to figure out how to wring out the most out of the transitions, and really start to formulate and position transitions in your mind in a way that they're not uncomfortable. Like, it's going to make you uncomfortable. Doing anything new that's unfamiliar isn't naturally what we are designed to crave, right? Our body likes rhythms and likes predictability. So it is against our very nature to want to be out of our comfort zone. But the more you can start thinking and positioning growth with discomfort, the growth becomes more attractive, and the staying in the dead places and staying in the things in your life that you've outgrown. It's like clothes that you've outgrown. Like, you just can't wear the same things anymore. So I think that it's important that we start to think about transitions as an opportunity for us to grow into the person, to progress mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically. So it's a really valuable time. It's also a time that is the most vulnerable. And if you think about it, when you're in transition, you're leaving something behind. You don't ever get to embrace something new without having to leave something. And that can be really hard for people. And so they either armor up their bodies and they're unwilling to let go of some things. And so they try to force things into a new season there's resistance there. And so then they get frustrated. Or you can really understand, hey, I'm kind of, I've got some things that I'm exposing right now because I want to address them before I head into something else. And so you are more vulnerable. Protecting that time and that space is going to be super valuable. So here are a couple things I want you to think about when you're heading into a transition. These are ways that because sometimes I think that life becomes so busy for us that we can't even identify the transitions in life anymore. We see the seasons changing all the time, but we see the same people at the gym doing the same workouts, eating the same food. Nothing changes. And in a lot of ways, like those are really good things to be consistent with. But if there is no ability to adapt to what your body needs, like if you're not taking breaks along the way when you really know that you need it and you're pushing yourself, then you're going to bottom out and then you'll be really frustrated because you just can't do the things you used to do. So you want to be able to tailor your life to what your body needs and what your spirit needs. But if you're so rigid with your routines every single day and the habits that you have, and you feel like my measure of success is ranked up or is evaluated against my ability to accomplish a certain list of things every day, then you're going to end up burning yourself out. So here are some ways that you can know if you're going into a transition, given the world that we live in where it's super fast paced. So number one is the things that you used to do aren't working anymore. So if you are trying the same diet plan, you are trying to get up at the same time every day and you've got the same routine and you're, doing a red light or cold plunge, or maybe you're just having, quiet time, meditation, whatever that looks like. But you just feel like, man, I can't even get out of a fog. I'm so tired. I can't think. Like I used to look forward to it. I used to be engaged with it. And now I'm like going through the motions. Like there's nothing there. It's not producing anything anymore. Then it is time to transition to something else. Don't try and push the same thing even harder. That is a warning sign. Hey, it's not that this is a bad strategy. It's just not the one that's going to move you into growth because you've outgrown it. There may be a different approach. You may incorporate some of the same components of that routine and that rhythm, but it's going to have to look a little bit different for you to be able to benefit from it. So if you're doing the same thing and it's not working, you've got to quit forcing things that don't work in your life. You want to be in flow. So think about it. If it's really hard to try and produce something, then I think that resistance is a sign that you're pursuing the wrong thing. Like you might feel like, well, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. That's the opportunity that was presented to me. It doesn't mean that every opportunity is the one you need to be taking. It may mean that was actually a no because there was something else that was better for you. You just had to wait on it. A lot of us don't like to wait. I don't like to wait. I don't like to wait for anything. So this is a really hard practice for me to have to understand, but the no's are so much more important oftentimes than the yeses. So be in flow. Look at the things and see, what am I forcing and where am I in flow? The things that are in flow, those are the ones that are aligned. Usually those are the places that God's trying to move you towards. The things that are really hard that you're just trying to force because you feel like it's the right thing or you feel like it's what other people are doing and that's what other people see as success. Those are the areas that you may have to revisit again and really look at the motive of, why did I choose that in the first place? Do I need to cut bait? Is it time to just sever that? Because it may be really hard to do and it may take some extra effort to sever it because you're now committed to it. But in the long run, it's going to set you free for growth. Okay, number 2, second reason that you'll be entering into a transition is that you feel burned out and unmotivated. A lot of us get to this point because we can run really hard and do a lot of great things. And the benefit of that, of maybe it's a financial reward or maybe it's just the feeling of feeling accomplished, right? Like the dopamine reward system. It's like, okay, I actually feel good. I feel like I'm productive and that's filling my cup. But if it's not the real deal, like if that's not really your assignment and the purpose for what you were designed for, I promise it will always come up short. when it comes to the real fulfillment, when it comes to having real peace. And so if you're in that place where it's like, I'm just burned out, I'm unmotivated, don't keep trying to push further thinking, well, if I can just force myself to overcome it, then I really am like a warrior. Like that is not a badge of honor. Pushing yourself beyond just the capacity to be able to handle it, you're going to be miserable and irritable, and you'll be short with everybody. And then you'll be bitter and you'll be resentful, and you'll have all these dynamics of tension within your relationships. So if you feel burned out and unmotivated, you are heading into a transition. This is a beautiful time to reevaluate the things in your life. Now, the third one is that your body is changing. And here's the kind of the image that I want to give you guys. When I talk to clients a lot of times about the stress response system and the adrenal glands, there are different stages in which the stress response system adapts to stress, to a present stress on the body, whether it's viral, whether it's emotional, whatever it is, environmental, you name it. A lot of times it's a combination of all of those. But the way that stress works is that you've kind of got this bell curve, right? And so as soon as there's something that threatens the body, that stress response engages and it produces cortisol and other steroid hormones that help defend yourself against and upregulate systems. Like, hey, we need to upregulate the immune system and we need to be more alert. The brain and the blood flow to all the organs and muscle and fascia, like, needs to be on point, because you may need to run. Like, you may be in a position where you need to save your life. And so your body is preparing you for that. Now, in that place, right, that upregulation, you can feel pretty good. Like you can conquer the world because you got all this adrenaline and cortisol keeping you going. And many people start thinking like, man, I've hit my stride. I'm really moving in life. I'm getting things done. But what they don't realize is that they're in a chronic stress pattern. And when you start to come off that curve, because at some point your body starts to realize like, we can't stay in this place of producing so much stress hormone all the time. It becomes very damaging for the body. Instead of preserving you in the short term, it's now damaging in the long term. So that cortisol tends to drop off and you hit this phase of exhaustion. And if you've hit the phase of exhaustion, which is much like that unmotivated phase, like the same things just don't get you excited. Like you're not interested in it anymore. That is a time. Hey, I've been pushing maybe too hard, or maybe I'm just running a race that's not a cadence that I'm meant to sustain. Before you get to exhaustion, you've got to transition, because you need to be able to sustain a pace where you can run the race for your purpose. You don't want to just sprint, burnout. Like that's really not the healthy way. And honestly, like that's going to be a huge problem to your body over time. Like think about it. It's like having a car where you're just like revving the engine all the time. Like you're going to burn the motor up a lot faster. You only have one set of organs. Like you're not getting replacements for the most part. Like everything is there and that's it. Once they're done, once they've been exhausted, that's it. So you have to be able to look at your life and think, how do I preserve this in a way that's healthy for my longevity? Okay. I want to pivot into navigating through transitions. And like I said, I'm going to give you guys a few things to think about when it comes to your physical body. And these are a few things that are a little bit more process related. Nobody likes to talk about the process, by the way. Like we all want to live in the promised land, but ain't nobody want to talk about how we got there, because it's decades of just living on a prayer. And a lot of times there are a lot of curveballs and things that we don't like. There's not a lot of predictability and it makes us uncomfortable. But this process of transition, if you can lean into it, I promise it will end up producing more fruit in your future. So the first thing in navigating through transitions in a healthy way is identify what you want to be your desired outcome. Like really understand where you're going. And you cannot identify where you're going when you're still running. Okay. You cannot be doing all the time. For all my type A people, listen, I'm your sister. I feel you. I am one of you. You have to stop doing so that you can pause long enough to see where you're going. I realize that it's very hard to feel that level of production when you're not actually checking things off a list. But if you want to experience growth, you have to stop. You have to. And it has to be longer than like an hour. Like it may require you. And this is where I feel like if we're not prepared for this and doing some legwork up front, you will have no margin in your life to stop. This is a problem with our culture. we don't even have margin to stop. We now know, hey, it's probably better in my best interest to pause and have these moments of meditation, but we do it for 5 minutes and then we're back to the races. I don't really think that has any sustainable benefit for us. So we have to be able to build in margin in our lives. I actually think having like quarterly breaks, take a week or 2 weeks if you can. Start planning for that instead of just like, I'm going to have my 1 week of vacation. Like start budgeting for yourself to have time so that every quarter, maybe when the seasons change, you can say, yeah, I got to take like a full week. I'm not doing any work. I'm going to have somebody come over and help with my kids. And I'm going to get away for like hours a day. And my only goal is going to be to really sit still long enough to understand what it is that I've been doing and if it's serving the overall goals on my life. Am I in alignment with my purpose? A lot of times we are just doing the things right now that are in front of us and we don't ever realize. And here's the thing, like all it takes is looking so closely at what's in front of us. And we do that for so long that we get so off track where we were meant to be. And then we resent the very thing that we're working on. And we get resentful and we think like, I hate this. I don't enjoy it anymore. It's not fun for me anymore. And if you don't build in breaks, you will never be able to get back on the tracks and start doing the things that you were designed to do. Those are the places where the blessing and the favor is. It's not the things that you decided to create. So if you feel empty about it, ask yourself, how did I get here? When did I start denying things that I felt like benefited me long-term for a short-term gain or short-term approval? Gosh, I'm so guilty of doing this. It's like, well, I want this person to like me and I want to make sure I'm meeting everybody's expectations. Well, every time I did that, I denied the value that was placed on my life from before I was even born. I denied, hey, this is what I was created to do, but I actually, because of my own insecurities, I need other people to now validate me. That could be like a whole message right there, but I'm going to let that one marinate for you. You're going to let that sit. The second point here in navigating through a healthy transition is don't rush the process. I talked about how processes are uncomfortable for most people. Usually you're going to get frustrated. Go ahead and just know that in your mind. You're going to sit there with it and think, okay, I'm wasting time. Okay, I'm not getting clarity. Let me tell you, clarity and discernment do not come because you just sat still for 5 minutes. They don't. I wish they did. I wish I could get clarity. But the things that are really valuable in life, the things that are the most worthwhile, you are going to have to wrestle with. But that's why they're so valuable, because you went through the wilderness with it and you wrestled with it. I want us to see this because it's so important. Rushing the process puts you at the wheel. It puts you in charge. Growth comes through sacrifice of yourself. It's denying your flesh right now for something that's better that you maybe can't even see yet. But if you cannot surrender your flesh and surrender your immediate preferences and desires, you will never get the greater thing because you will always settle for the here and now. You will always settle for what you desire, what you can see that's right in front of you. There is so much more for you. There is so much more for you. Do not rush the process. The greatest downloads, the greatest words, the greatest inspiration always came when I was like real frustrated and at the end of my rope. The end of you is the beginning of what God can do in your life. Don't rush his process. All right. Number 3, evaluate your routines. This one, for all those people that like to be super organized, you're going to love this because now you can maybe make a list. You can write down, what does my day-to-day look like? What am I prioritizing? Are the things that I'm prioritizing the things that I value? Wow. I mean, I just maybe stepped on somebody's toes. Are the things that you are spending the most amount of time on really the things that you value? Because you may say you value your family and you value relationships, but you may spend all your time doing all your own stuff because you actually spend more time trying to make yourself look better to people that don't actually really care or have any inside influence in your life. I mean, that one's coming for your throat. And that one actually hurt me a little bit. It came out and I felt it because I know I'm guilty of it too. I will say that I value a lot of different things, but if you actually looked at where I spent my time, probably would not make sense. That formula would not add up. So evaluate routines. And also, this is the fourth point, and I mentioned this earlier. Realize you are most vulnerable in seasons of transition. I cannot stress this enough. When you're in a season of transition, you have to understand that every single voice, assuming that you stop, assuming that you slow down enough in your life to take a pause and to evaluate and to open yourself up and to sacrifice, every single influence in your life will have a voice that speaks to all of the things that are coming up, all of the things that are super delicate. They're real personal. Okay. These are the insecurities. These are the doubts. These are the failures that you're reminded of. Remember how you failed at that? That's going to happen again. Remember when you had that experience and you felt like you just weren't enough? Like you felt like, man, I shouldn't be doing this. Somebody else is way better for this. All that stuff starts coming up when you're quiet. If you do not protect that space and that window, you will have voices speaking over your future. Those voices are going to direct your thought patterns of how you live. Like this, it is so critical that you batten down the hatches of your life. You may need to get off social media. I 1000% will advocate for getting off of all social media platforms when you are in a transition phase, even if it's for 1 week. If you want clarity, you have got to clear the clutter of voices in your mind, and everything has a voice. The TV has a voice. Your kids are talking to you. Social media is yelling at you. Podcasts are talking to you. Listen, if you're in a transition after this podcast, cool it. I know Mel Robbins and all these different people are like so inspirational and great. You don't need their voice. Okay. They don't carry your calling. They don't carry your purpose. They may have some great strategies and tips of how you can maybe execute that. But if you don't even know where it is, if you don't even know where you're going, you don't need their voice influencing it. You need to be still. You need to be with the one who knows your purpose for your life. That you can be able to discern, this is going to be a yes for me. This is going to be a no for me. This is where I'm fixing my eyes for the future. Know how valuable transitions are. I think about it like a highway with exits, right? When you are in a transition in your life, you have an exit you are getting off. Okay. So if you need to go to the bathroom, get a snack, fill your car up with gas, you do it. But when you get back on that highway, you are running. You don't have a chance to get out and stretch your legs and do all these extra little things. You're getting off a ramp here. So you may as well stay for a moment before you get back on and commit to driving. Because once you get in that lane and you are running, it's going to be really hard to say like, oh, I put the wrong shoes on. Like I got blisters now. Like I really, I can't get off now though, because I'm committed. So I'm just going to have to, my feet are going to be bloody and I'll be miserable. So take advantage. Shut it down. Like I think of these transitions in my life as like a bubble. I'm like, nobody comes in, voices don't come in. And I heavily censor my life, like filter. I don't even allow the TV to be on. I don't allow most music unless it's, worship music or something. Like I don't want voices because they're all influencing my thought patterns and I need my thoughts to be pure. I need discernment. I need wisdom. I cannot grow in deep, meaningful ways when I live on the surface and it's too loud and I'm just hearing the clanging around of all the distractions in my life. So know the value of the transitions. Okay. I know we went super deep. I hope you guys are still with me. We're going to talk about a couple practical things now when it comes to transitions. And these are kind of, in my opinion, these are the tools. The hard stuff is the hard stuff. The hard stuff is breaking the patterns. It's saying no to the things that you're used to doing over and over, feeling like you have to give everybody a explanation of why you didn't go to the gym and why you're not meeting your friend and why you're not taking that phone call. Like those are actually hard. By the way, you don't have to explain yourself. Like you just need to be able to take those breaks. The people that know you the best will honor that. The people that don't, they don't want you to change. They are going to be the most offended because you are no longer serving the purpose that they need for you. They need from you for their life. Okay. So the people that oppose the transitions, they oppose the growth. Those are the people that you need to have a new level of awareness going into your new season because they are going to be in opposition of this new you. They will not be in support of it. And if you are taking their approval as success, if their affirmation of your life means more than fulfilling your purpose, then you will easily sacrifice the next thing for their approval. and you will slide right back into the old mold of who you were. It's another little side piece for you. Okay, so transitions. Here we go. Number one, I just go through everything in my house, like supplements, food, and rhythms. So I'm going to go through, and I honestly believe the best process here is to clean out. Just clean house. It's like spring cleaning. I just start going through like what is no longer serving me in this season. Where is the clutter? You got to trim all the unnecessary stuff out of your life. So if it's even a question mark, get rid of it. Just it doesn't need to be there. Because the more stuff that it's cluttering your mind. It's cluttering your space. It becomes a distraction. You don't need any more distractions. We got enough distractions. We don't need any more. So clear out things that are like old supplements and old clothes. And I mean, make your space a blank canvas. This is what I think is beautiful. Everybody loves good, deep spring cleaning because it just feels like a purge. But if you have a space that is reflecting this blank canvas of the opportunity to create new things, then your mind will actually be positioned to create. But if your physical space looks the same and there is junk piled up everywhere, and listen, I know we all got I got so many things organized, so it doesn't look cluttery, but you open a closet, there's a lot of things there. There's a lot of stuff. It doesn't need to be there. There could be empty shelves. I don't need to have the bin with the label on it, like just because I got a shelf and there's space for it. That doesn't mean that I need to hang on to it. Create space that opens up your mind and positions you. It starts communicating to your brain. We are going to create something beautiful. We are going to create something new. We're going to birth something new in this season, but I'm not going to bring it into the old place. So even if there's small, subtle changes, go around your physical space, even just dedicate one day to it or a weekend. You can even get your kids involved in it. Like I actually can't really involve my kids. I gotta be honest. They're like little pack rats. They love keeping everything. So I'm like prying things out of their little dead, lifeless fingers while they're crying. So it's kind of like a traumatic thing. I have to purge things when they're not around. But whatever works for you, just think of your physical space as an extension of yourself, of where you see yourself going. Clean off the counters. I just did this the other day. I was like, oh, I got all my essential oils, all my stuff. I love that. But I actually just needed it to be like blank space. I was like, just changing that, putting a green plant in there. I was like, oh, look at that. Beautiful new growth. It's perfectly representative of this new season in my life. So clear the clutter, clean out your spaces, blank canvas. You're going to create something beautiful. The other thing is, this is a perfect time to evaluate what you're doing to support your body. So if you're taking like 12 supplements a day and you're like, I've been taking these forever, I don't even know if they're doing anything. I would go back to very basics. Okay. So for me, it's like magnesium. Love magnesium. I do magnesium breakthrough. It's multiple forms of magnesium. Everybody, I mean, and the magnesium is responsible for over 700 enzymatic processes in the body, and the majority of people are deficient. So you're not going to go wrong with magnesium. Just make sure you have a good brand. So that one to me is important. The only other ones I really take though are a phospholipid supplement that helps support the cell membrane and black cumin oil. And I've got a lot of different herbs. Like I keep a lot of them on hand, but I will actually pause them while I'm in transitions because I think I've been taking these. I feel pretty good on them, but maybe if I come off of them and one, give my body a break, which is always good to be cyclical with things. But two, then I can really start to choose. And I oftentimes think that's a good time to work with somebody. You can work with somebody that can muscle test you or run some blood labs on you, just to get a baseline of where am I? Instead of just like purchasing and buying and doing all of these things, like let's just get a baseline, like get some blood work done, get some labs done, work with a provider that can go through it. And then it's also a good thing that, the next season, you can redo it and kind of see where you are, like what things have improved, maybe what things do we need to work on, but you'll have something measurable that you can work with. So I recommend in those seasons of transition, keep it down to the bare minimum. Like I said, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I do a little bit of iodine for thyroid, which I have another podcast on that, which is great. But I'll do that. I do the black cumin seed oil, the Body Bio PC, which I love, the phospholipid cell membrane, and then I do the magnesium. And there's a few other gut supportive supplements that I'll kind of throw in here and there. But this is one that those are the few that I would stick with. And honestly, it is kind of freeing for a moment to just not have to think about it, not think like, oh, I need to get in my rhythm. So take the time to go through supplements. Meals, same thing. Wipe out the fridge, the pantry, gut it all, clean it out. And then start to think, what season am I going into? What produce is seasonal? Can I maybe start utilizing a farmer's market? We're going into spring. I'm really excited to go to the farmer's market again. And start buying locally. Start buying things that are growing seasonally. And then just build out your meals like that. Like I really don't even have much of a game plan. I just kind of am like, whatever looks good when I'm at the farmer's market, I just buy it and figure out what to do with it. Maybe you need a recipe or a meal guide, and that's totally fine too. I kind of have gone through different phases and seasons of life where I will utilize a lot of different tools like that. But gut it out. And then as you're entering into the season, think what foods are going to be the most nourishing for this season. If you're going into summer, if it's warm out, things that are high in antioxidants are going to help buffer the oxidative damage from the sun. If you're outside in the sun a lot, if you're sweating a lot, make sure you're adding in more minerals. So these are things just to think about, like what is the environment depleting me of, or what am I doing day to day that's going to deplete more nutrients? And then I'm going to choose those nutrients to add into my diet and my regimen. And if I don't need them, then that's okay too. You will not need the same thing every season. And if you are, again, beyond the ones that are just kind of like the foundational supports, if there are other things that you're adding in or you're just doing constantly, I would ask yourself, is this serving a need that my body has? Or have I just become attached to it and I feel like if I take it away, the wheels are going to fall off? And I've gotten attached to it. It's been very hard for me to like come off of certain things when I know I have them there too. But it's actually more beneficial for me to come off and really see how my body is regulating on its own, because truly the less interference, the better, in my opinion. Let the body do what it needs to, support it where it needs support, but more is not always better. So really try and use some intelligence in how you navigate the supplements, especially as they kind of fill in. Because you think about supplements, they're really augmenting, filling in some of the gaps nutritionally, but they're also serving in large part as buffers to stress. So whatever stressors are depleting you, whether they're environmental toxins, maybe you need glutathione, maybe you need N-acetylcysteine. So if you know that you're traveling or you know that you've got a high level of toxin exposure, like antioxidants are going to be helpful, glutathione is going to be helpful. Like just understanding some of those basic tools will let you'll know, hey, it's appropriate for me to bring this in. Hey, I was exposed to some stuff. I'm going to take some binders. I'm going to sit in my sauna. It doesn't mean you have to do it every day. It just means that you have the tools. So in a moment, you can take an evaluation of what your body really needs and be able to support it. Woo, guys, I feel like I've been cruising on this one. I love transitions. If you can't tell, I've come to love them. And I hope that you do too. Change is hard. Being uncomfortable is not easy, but the more you can really get yourself comfortable being uncomfortable, and that takes practice. So if there's one thing that you could do every day that's out of your comfort zone, whether it's reaching out to somebody that you're like, oh, I don't know if I want to do that. Do I want to open that can of worms? Or maybe it's just changing the rhythm. For a lot of us, it's just, hey, instead of getting on social media, I'm going to wait until lunchtime every day. My entire morning is going to be free of social media. That has been very freeing for me. But it was hard because I was used to checking it. It's like, okay, what happened overnight? Like, I don't know, like what people are up all night long on Instagram. I mean, I guess some people are, but I don't know why I felt like I needed to know. Like, do people make posts? Did they comment? Did they send me a DM? I don't know. Why do I need to know these things? Just breaking the rhythm is going to start exposing things that steal your time. Oh, time. We can't get time back. Don't let things that serve no purpose in your life steal the most valuable thing, which is your time. So evaluate it, lean into the transitions, get comfortable being uncomfortable every day. It will make transitions way more easy. You will look forward to them. You will enjoy them. You will embrace it. So those are my little tips, my hacks. Clean your space, blank canvas, create beautiful things with the resources that you have, the talents, gifts, and abilities that you've been given that nobody else carries. Remember that there are things on your life that only you are gifted to carry. You are graced to carry. When you see the value in that, you steward it differently. So guys, I hope that this has blessed you. I hope it finds you well. I hope you're encouraged. I love hearing from you. I love knowing that our content at the Health Institute is meeting a need, whether it's physical, emotional, whatever that might be. We love supporting your journey to better health. So we will see you guys on the next episode. Thanks for tuning in.